Hello, everyone. Good evening. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for joining me tonight. I am the Getaway Queen, and I am here to talk to you about how do we restore consumer confidence in a post COVID world when it comes to travel. Now, any of you guys who have been joining me in my Instagram feed will know that I have been having conversations with my friends around the world. So far, I've spoken to Barbados, I just spoke to Mexico, Jamaica, South Africa. We have been going around the world, Italy, how can I forget Italy? Going around the world and having these conversations to find out how the world is coping with COVID. And I know I've been getting a lot of questions from friends that have been saying, we are ready to travel. We can't wait to start traveling. Shola, tell us what is going on. What are the hotels going to be doing? How are we all going to get prepared for what this new world is going to look like in post COVID? So I decided that I would come on tonight and give some feedback or insights actually as to what I've been hearing, because I've been invited to some webinars and I've been speaking and reaching out to the travel industry and connecting with some of my friends that work in hotels to find out what is going on. How are you going to make people feel comfortable and confident that they can start coming back to your hotels, start visiting your countries, etc.? Because that's going to be the biggest thing. And I know that comparing this to 9/11 is a real stretch. 9/11 was a completely different kettle of fish. However, it's kind of the same behavior that's going to happen, right? People are going to be nervous about traveling. And so I want to let you know what the industry is doing to get prepared for when they open back their doors to welcome you. So thank you for joining me tonight. So the first thing is, I have a feeling there are going to be three types of people. Okay, and it's nothing that I've read anywhere, but it's just through my experience. I feel there's going to be three segments of people. So you're going to have the first segment, which are people that cannot wait to get back on a plane. Yes, I'm one of those people. So as soon as everything is clear, I'm on a plane. And it doesn't really matter to me if it's a 1 hour flight, 3 hour flight, 5 hour flight, 15-hour flight. I am ready to go. I'm a jet setter. So there's that group of people that are going to be eager beavers and they're going to want to get going. Then I think you're going to have another set of people who want to get out. You know, we've been locked up and cooped up in our homes. So we're ready to get out, but they're not going to be as comfortable necessarily traveling. So they're going to be a little bit more concerned jumping on a plane and probably would want to resort to the confines of their car. So they are probably people that are going to do staycations or road trips, but they want to get out. They want to take the family out. They want to see a change of scenery. So I think you're going to have another population of people who are going to jump in their car and ride off, under the sunset. And then the last segment, I believe, is going to be people who do not want to travel. They have no desire to travel. Don't tell them anything about travel. You know what? They're going to wait to see how things pan out. And then they're going to probably look to make their travel arrangements sometime in 2021. And that's fine. So I'm talking to the people that are ready to get going and want to know what's going to be done. So the first thing I've heard, and again, this is stuff I'm hearing. So, if things turn out a little bit differently, please don't come back and crucify me. It's things that I'm hearing. And as we know in this industry and in the world, to be quite honest, things are changing by the minute, by the day, right? So from an airline perspective, I am hearing that they are potentially looking to get rid of the middle seat. So I don't know if they are looking to take it out altogether, because I think that would be a very costly and expensive endeavor. But on a flight, or on an airplane, what they're probably going to be doing is having an empty seat in between two passengers. So if we look at the window configuration, you would have somebody at the window, that middle seat would be empty, and then you'd have somebody at the aisle. In bigger jumbo liners where you have 5 or 7 seats in the middle of the aircraft, then I think what they might do is probably have one person and then not have somebody and then put somebody else. So they will always have an empty seat. Now, again, this is what I'm hearing. I don't know if this will actually come into practice, but that's probably the best that an airline can do from a social distancing perspective. And I mean, kudos to them. They have come under fire a lot, taken a lot of heat around their practices where they like to overbook flights. So, the hope is that obviously not everybody's going to show up. And they have stats that show that on average, there's always X percentage of people that miss their flights. So that's why they overbook. However, in situations where everybody shows up for that flight, that's when you kind of get into those uncomfortable conversations. If there's nobody that's willing to volunteer to wait for another flight, then you have everybody showing up. It's an oversold flight, and now you've got to make those tough decisions around who you take off and who you let on. So I think if they do this and they don't oversell the seats, then this will be a good way to manage in a post-COVID world. So that's one thing I've heard. The other thing that you're obviously going to see, and you're probably seeing right now, I haven't obviously been to the airport in a while, is heightened sanitizer, sanitation, disinfectant. There's probably going to be a lot more cleaners out there, wiping down common areas that are touched by just about everybody, etc. Right? We know that they were talking about having temperature tests available in the airport. So I don't know if that's going to happen across the board, if that's going to be mandated. But I know in some airports they have those right now. So that's what you're going to kind of see from an airline perspective. Now, in terms of hotels, what I've been hearing is, again, they will also be beefing up on sanitization, and sanitizers, disinfectants, and all that good stuff. That's kind of a blanket statement and a given. One hotel mentioned that they would have masks for guests that arrive. So when these guests come in, they will be given a face mask. In that particular hotel, they have already put up plexiglass. So there is plexiglass in there, and it would protect the frontline attendant from anybody that's coming in. Now, keep in mind, hotels are currently closed, but this particular hotel has already gone ahead and put in plexiglass. And then a further measure is to ask any guests that come into the hotel to please put on a mask, and they will have them there available. Now, I'm not sure if that's going to be, again, across the board or if it's just this one particular hotel, but this brand is a big brand. It's probably one of the biggest brands in North America. So it's going to go right across their hotels. What I do wonder about are, hotels that have big complexes. So if we think of, our all-inclusives that are out in the Caribbean, how would they manage something like this, right? I don't know if they're going to implement it, but if they did, how would they manage it? How do you make sure that everybody that comes in puts a mask on? And then with the movement that goes back and forth in a hotel on any given day, kids running in and out, a parent comes in, they forgot something in their room, they run up to get it. How do you control that? I'm not sure. Is it just when you check in? I have no idea. But that's some of the things that one of the hotels said that they were looking to invest in. The other thing I think you're going to see change drastically is in the restaurants. So in the restaurants at hotels, they are going to move to more of a checkerboard seating system. And by that, what I mean is you're not going to have tables next to one another the way they are today. They're going to be laid out in a checkerboard format. So that means there's going to obviously be less people that will be seated at any given time. Now, again, if I take it back to those big jumbo resorts that have a la cartes and you usually have to book into them, some of them is a first come, first serve, then that obviously means less people going in at any given time, which means they're probably going to have to boost up their systems to make sure they have a good understanding of the time frames as to, when people can come. For those that are just allowing people to show up and wait, then I think that's going to result in much longer wait times. And I would think that it would probably be in their best interest to move to a booking system where people book, they know they have a set time, and then they come and they show up. So there's going to be less traffic going through those restaurants, unless, of course, they decide to build bigger restaurants and then be able to have more tables and more people. But there isn't not going to be a lot of as many tables as there are today in those restaurants. It'll be interesting to see how they deal with it with the teppanyaki type restaurants, because you know how that configuration is, right? You're sitting in front of a heater or a table, and then everybody kind of gathers around, and they're seated quite close to one another. I guess to get around that, they probably will have just one person and then have an empty seat and then have another person. But anyways, that is definitely going to change the landscape in restaurants. And I'm sure you're going to see that in smaller restaurants as well, where this checkerboard system is going to come into play so that you don't have people so tightly packed into these establishments. The other thing that they mentioned was around the buffet. So I don't know that they have figured out entirely how they're going to manage buffets going forward. In bigger properties, buffets are a staple, right? They're the one place that you can go where it's open most of the day, and you can get cuisine that's not just specific to the country that you're in or the island that you're visiting, but it's cuisine from across the world or around the world. So it has a lot more options, and people tend to like to go to the buffet. It has way more seating, lots more seating. So I think that's going to be spread out a lot more in buffet type restaurants. But more importantly, I think you're going to see people serving you as opposed to the typical buffet where people walk around and pick up what they want. They might pick up something, put it back down, etc. So I don't think you're going to see food handling being handled that way in the future, if buffets exist, right? Because we know that, there's a lot of conversation and talking and, all kinds of things that happen around buffets. They're not necessarily the cleanliest, at the best of times. So moving forward in a post-COVID world, I think buffets are going to look completely different. So that's another thing. The other thing I was hearing is potentially having temperature machines brought in. So again, I don't know which properties are looking to invest in them. Some, airlines, airports, as I mentioned, have them, but there could be temperature machines available that will check your temperature when you arrive. Now, I don't know if this is just immediately, in the immediate near future, once these hotels start to open back, or if this is going to be something that's there for the next 5-10 years. But that is some of the things that they're looking to invest in, again, to make sure that they're keeping everybody safe. They are also looking to potentially beef up their cleaning schedule. So today, if you go to a hotel, at minimum, the housekeeping staff are coming into your room once a day, unless you put something on your door that says do not enter. And I'm actually one of those people. I don't really like them coming in my room. I keep my room spotless, spick and span. And in general, in my house, I don't change my linen every day. I don't throw my towels down on the floor and wash them every day. So I don't need somebody doing that for me every day. I do have them come in maybe once every couple days, depending on how long I'm there, that are potentially, touched a lot. So anybody that's touching things where you can have issues or concerns, obviously the bathrooms will be clean, but I don't know that they'll necessarily be changing out linens. Like, I don't think that frequency is going to increase. For those hotels that are bound and, are environmentally friendly, so that's kind of what their platform is built on. It's going to be interesting to see how that all works as well, because they're all about, environment and saving the environment. But if they have to be going in and changing of things and, and all that stuff, then that's going to, obviously add more to overhead and the environment. So, but that is one thing that they've talked about, which is, doubling up the cleaning and potentially coming in twice per day. All right. Another big thing is obviously going to be around cleaning handles. So that goes without saying. There's going to be a lot of frequent cleaning of handles. I think it's probably just easier for them to get rid of where they can. A lot of these doors where you have to use handles to open and move around the property, it's probably just best to put in those automatic sliding doors. So when people approach, it automatically opens. That will help a lot. And be a lot more efficient. But where there are doors, and obviously on your door leading into your hotel room, it's probably going to be difficult to get rid of a handle. unless they become really creative and clever, which I'm sure they can. But in the interim, there are handles, and they will have to obviously be making sure they're cleaning, and any common areas where people are touching all the time, they are going to be making sure that is cleaned all the time. And then the other thing is around bringing in hospital grade disinfectant. So they're looking to beef up the level or type of disinfectant that they actually have, and bring in, what is equivalent to equivalent to what is being used in hospitals. So that's great. That's amazing. Obviously my concern is a balance between the environment and all of these cleaning supplies. So I know personally, in my house, I use cleaning supplies that are environmentally friendly. They don't have any chemicals. They don't have parabens. They don't harm the environment. And I'm happy using that. And I'm happy using it in abundance. But with a lot of these chemicals, especially hospital grade disinfectant, I don't believe that type of disinfectant would fall under the environmentally friendly bucket. So it's going to be interesting, in all of this cleaning that we're doing, which is necessary, are we now going to then be harming the environment? So it's that fine balance, but at the end of the day, it's necessary. So I hope I've given you some insight, and I hope I've given those people that were saying we have no desire to travel some thought, that they are definitely looking into how they can boost consumer confidence. They have been looking at what China has been doing. So as you know, Wuhan, which was the initial epicenter, they are now operational, are starting to open back their businesses and return to some form of new normalcy. So the rest of the world is obviously looking to them to see what they are doing, and will obviously kind of follow suit. So definitely more to come, but I think it's great news to hear that they are taking it serious and not just planning to open their doors back and pretend like COVID never existed. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you don't follow me on my Instagram, please follow me at The Getaway Queen, TheGetawayQueen, where I have conversations with my friends around the world, and there's all kinds of great stuff happening on that page. Take care, be safe, and stay healthy.